Hi, I'm Erik Huberman, and you're listening to Making the Marketer. Today we're here with Justin Rezvani, the founder of theAmplify. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm really good, Eric. Thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you here. Before we get into everything, tell us a little bit about theAmplify and kind of your experience.
Sure. So theAmplify is an influencer marketing platform. We were started in 2013, and our focus was really around how data and technology can enhance the entire flow of a brand working with high impactful creators that have a large audience on social media.
Got it. And so, it's been my experience, like you see the end result of a marketer. You see a guy that now has sold his agency and, built this whole thing, but how'd you get into marketing? Like, what about your life put you in this direction that you decided I'm going to run a marketing company, an influencer marketing company?
It's a great question, and I think it revolves around the year I graduated high school. So 2006, I graduated high school, and the next year, which was my first year of college, was the year the iPhone came out. And my cousin actually was the managing director of Y&R back in Europe, and he was kind of alluding to me in the mid-2000s that the mobile phone will be the most powerful device in our life. So my focus in college was to say, if I'm going in direction of mastering a medium, I was focused on mastering the mobile phone and how the mobile phone can not only interact with another person, but how can a brand be an interface with that other end. So I basically spent the next 5 years of school 100% focused on mobile advertising, mobile messaging, SMS, and how does the entire de facto experience of mobile experiences work out for brands. And basically that entire career, my first actual job was I was the mobile intern for the Walt Disney Company. And there was 5 people working on Disney's mobile team at the time. This was 2009. Disney.com mobile had just launched, right? So it was the first time they had a 5-person, now it's in the thousands of people that work on mobile. But the mastery was, how does this platform now how do you curate this platform for this new age audience that's on the go and engaging with the most intimate device in our life?
That's awesome. So in kind of giving you a little bit of story from there. So you went into mobile, like what transitioned from focusing on mobile and mobile platforms? How did you make that transition? Because that's also very technical to marketing. Like, I'm a marketer. Like, yeah. Where did that come in?
Well, I think the most powerful change agent in our society today, for good or for bad, happens to be advertising and marketing. It makes us buy things we don't need sometimes, and also makes us buy things that potentially are bad for us. So I knew in my career what I wanted to master was, how can I generally communicate with a large-scale audience on a platform that matters the most. So my goal ended up being, I went to university, I got my degree in advertising and marketing management, and focusing on, well, if this is the medium that we are working with, which happens to be a mobile phone,
yep,
what are the types of things that you have to do within that medium to get to an audience?
Got it.
And change into that audience. So, I started off really focused on SMS. So just to give some background, we worked with a company called mBlocks in 2007. And what this company was designed to do was sending mass text messages to people that would go buy stores in the U.S. And we ended up having some issues with compliance in the U.S. because you can do that in Europe. But that was the first interface of saying, if someone goes to a certain destination, we can message them about being there.
Yep.
That was the first saying, okay, there's a possibility of this one-to-one marketing experience. And then from there, we move on to social, and I'll get into some details around social and what that is.
No, got it. That's perfect. And so, through your experience, obviously you've now been very successful with it. I think we both can agree there's thousands and tens of thousands of people that say they're marketers, probably millions of people that say they're marketers in the world, but very few are actually any good.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what makes a good marketer?
So I think a good marketer has empathy, and most importantly is a practitioner, right? So I think there's this one thing, before I left my company after the exit, I always would look at these large-scale brands and who was running these brands. And often, which was really unfortunate, is that they happen to not be practitioners in how their customers actually live.
Yeah.
How are their customers actually spending their time? How are they actually engaging? And they don't have empathy for their experience, nor do they have empathy on how they actually engage with everything that they do, so they're not a practitioner.
Yep.
So one thing that I found that makes an expert marketer, and one thing that I always strive for in everything that I do, is I am an incredible practitioner to what I do. I dive in, I spend more time than anyone, and I master not only the medium, but the experience that we're trying to create. So to me, what makes a great marketer is empathy about the customer, and most importantly, becoming a practitioner of their craft.
Couldn't agree more. And so kind of on that same point, when it came to growing your own business, how did marketing play a part? Obviously, you were supplying marketing to other companies, but how did marketing play a part in growing theAmplify?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was around, for me personally, because I was in a very unique situation, right? So I started the company pretty much on my own. I did not take any outside investment like you, didn't take any venture capital. I didn't have a series of people that could help elevate me.
No.
So what my goal was to do was, if there was anything talked about influencer marketing, I had to be the guy that people look at like, hey, Justin's the expert.
Yeah.
So what my goal was to do for the first 2, 3, 4 years was to talk to every single person that was out there about this topic of influencer marketing and share that I was the expert to do that. So every agency meeting, I was the data expert. Every brand meeting, I was the content expert to show them what is the most impactful influencer content that you could create. And I spent my entire kind of existence at theAmplify to be the de facto person of anytime you thought about influencer marketing, you went to this person, which happened to be Justin Rezvani. So my focus was to be a topic expert only in that topic, right? Like, I don't know much about paid media. I don't know much about email. I don't know much about anything else. But this one topic, I kind of know everything. So I focused on being a master of one versus
you focused and mastered it and became the thought leader in that space while also keeping yourself top of mind. And so I assume the goal being when someone went, ooh, I need influencer marketing, or who can I call about influencer marketing, started hearing this buzzword, your timing was awesome as well. And it was just at the kind of hockey stick of that industry, and you had established yourself, at least in your community, as the guy to go to. So,
yeah, I mean, it was funny. In mid 2015, there was a period of time, or actually even 2014, we were the only company talking about this specific thing of saying, if you wanted to buy impressions on Instagram, you could not go anywhere else but theAmplify. So if you look at the original press releases, we would say advertising impressions on Instagram, the only source. Every movie studio called us weekend after weekend for the first 2 years of saying, we have an opening blockbuster, we can't buy impressions on Instagram, all of our audience is there, we need to go through you through influencers. So it was able to kind of, in some ways, take advantage of a newly developed platform, which was Instagram at the time. They just had been bought only 2 years previously, and becoming the person that could say, hey, if I want to do this, this is the person to go to for that.
Brilliant. So next question I got for you, a lot of people listening are new marketers, people trying to get into it, they want to learn something here. So if you're talking to someone that is kind of like you back in college, deciding to major in advertising because you think this is going to be a good medium, what would be the one piece of advice you'd tell a new marketer? What's one thing that you wish you were told when you were first starting out?
So something that I wish I was told, I mean, if you're getting a general experience from a large university, the thing you should be striving for is getting some practical, real experience learning out of your experience. Because, I mean, we're both entrepreneurs and we both look at employees all the time to hire. And unfortunately, I don't give a fuck about where you went to school. That's just like the matter of fact. So you have to have, excuse my language, but you have to have impactful projects after derivative things that you've done besides that experience. So my advice is that it comes back to what makes a great marketer is you need to be a practitioner. So if you want to focus on creating content or being a content creator, you need to be creating content yourself. If you want to say, I want to take a content marketing job, you have to understand as a practitioner, how do you create content, right? Like one thing I'm striving on right now is that, I did all this work in building this business, and we were at one point creating thousands of pieces of content for brands. And I realized that I wasn't doing the same thing for myself. So now I'm kind of on this point of I'm actually creating some videos and posting them a couple times a week, understanding like when I post this kind of video, how does that impact things? So I'm becoming kind of going backwards and saying, okay, now I want to redo my practitionership in that space.
Well, and yeah, to that point, I mean, I think that is some of the best advice you can give, because when it comes down to doing it for yourself, if you're marketing something that you own, if you're doing something for yourself, you start to understand all the nuances and things that happen above and beyond, a boss, someone telling you good job, bad job. So it becomes, you actually get the cause and effect. The reason, I got into marketing was because I had to with my own brands. And so one reason Hawke Media has excelled is when we're doing marketing for companies, we know that it's not just about like, you got a great CPM, you hit a bunch of people. Like, we understand that there's a step past that and a step past that where it's like, I don't care about my CPM, like what was my ROI? And then, okay, well, your ROI isn't just driven by how many ad impressions you got, it's driven by your conversion rates, it's driven by your lifetime value of a customer and how often they come back, which at the end of the day, all of this is driven by a demand and desire for your product and then people liking it once they get it.
Sure.
And so all these things you start to understand that someone can tell you all day and night, but then when you do it for yourself and you practice it yourself, I totally agree. I think that's when you actually are going to learn something that becomes valuable to another company if your goal is a job, or to build your own thing if your goal is to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think even I want to harp on this one topic around empathy, right? Is like, if you want to be a great marketer, is that you need to understand who's on the other end. You need to understand who is actually receiving whatever you're putting out there and why are they receiving it, and how can you understand what they're going through and potentially build something around that topic.
Absolutely. And okay, so now the next question, I need you to put your Oracle hat on.
Oracle
hat. I need you to be the wise Justin Rezvani, and I need you to predict what do you think will be the next big thing in marketing in the next year and in the next 5 years.
Got it. So, I have this, I actually just created a video around this. I think people massively overestimate what happens in 1 year and massively underestimate what happens in 5. So nice. I'm gonna try with that hat. So I think we're finally, hopefully in the next year, and again, I could be wrong because it could be the 5-year thing, is in marketing, we could finally get to the one-to-one marketing experience.
Yep.
And I think that we're still really not there in terms of how the platforms are letting us interact, but eventually there will be a way that I can talk to Erik, only talking to Erik.
Yep.
Not talking to people like Erik and very close to Erik, because Erik might be a subset of 1,000 people, but only talk to Erik based upon everything that's going on. And that's really what my hope is going to get to. The bigger picture, I think, in marketing and where eventually we can go is I hope in 5 years, the products that are at the peak state of adoption that are being run by the biggest brands in the world aren't in fact hurting us as a generation. And what I mean by that is that, I worked in CPG for 5 years. Our clients were some of the largest CPG companies in the world. And if you look at the research and you look at the medical research and you look at the data, unfortunately, the things that they put out to the world aren't the best things for you biologically, right? So my hope is that it's not that these companies need to go away, is that they need to catch up to saying, are we doing things that are good for humanity? Yeah. Are we providing the things that make this place a better place to live? And those are the things that excel, not just the cheapest and the best marketed and the ones that have the most money.
I think, and I love that you highlight that, because I think it does go in line with the question. Like, a lot of people expect you to answer, what's the future of marketing? It's like, AI. And there's some short answer, which you kind of alluded to, but still, at the end of the day, marketing relies on good product. And the good news is there's a whole movement, and I don't think this is a fad, it definitely isn't a fad, around health and wellness and people understanding what they're putting in their bodies. And so I think you're right. In 5 years, big companies have to go that route. And they're already doing it. They already know they are. Coca-Cola, all these big brands are buying healthy companies, coming up with their own healthy products, because people are caring more and more. And you're right. In 5 years, hopefully, instead of the vast majority of ad spends coming from things that aren't good for you, it'll be coming from things that are good for you. And there'll be, as you said, there's a lot of influence in advertising. And so if that influence can be used for good, so to speak, it just benefits us all. And I think that people demand that more and more as we move on.
Absolutely. And I'm hopeful for this leapfrog, right? I think generationally we've been stuck in this mindset and this thing that's happening, but a lot of this stuff is killing us. And I hope that And I believe in humanity that we will leapfrog beyond all of this and get to a point that collective consciousness will just make this a better place.
Amen. So, got 2 more questions for you. One, who would you consider your marketing idol or mentor? Whether it's someone you know and has mentored you, or someone who's just like, I wish I could learn from that guy, or that guy's just, or girl has done something very impressive.
Okay, this is a tough one. Can I come back to this question and let me think about it for a second?
I'm going to give you maybe a slightly tougher one to replace it. While we hold on that one, what was the most exciting or fun marketing campaign or initiative you've been a part of, and why was it great?
This is very easy for me. So Lionsgate was a long-term client of theAmplify, and they were the first client that made us cash flow positive, right? So they were the first client that said, I trust you guys. We don't know this whole influencer thing, but here you go. Early 2014, a month after I started the business. 2 weeks after, we came up with this idea and said, listen, we're building a VR app with Google. And what it is that it's a VR experience for a film called Divergent. So the concept was, what we came up with was that these influencers would go to a green screen studio and they'd put on these VR glasses. And then the second they put on their VR glasses, whatever they were seeing would green screen behind them, and we'd create a custom video of what they were seeing onto Instagram.
Yeah.
More importantly, the actual experience was about 3 minutes long. At Instagram only had about 15 seconds at the time. So what we had to do was actually create 10 influencers in a series that would show the entire VR experience. So they would pass along the second stage of the experience to the next person. So it was a VR / Instagram / I don't know what we call this, kind of a train scenario where it was multiple influencers. And we had over 150,000 people that watched the entire series, one after another, and we saw that through data because the same person engaged with every video. To me, that was the coolest thing we ever did, and that was in early 2014. That was the coolest kind of content experience campaign. I would say I'll add another one because I think you talked about the topic of machine learning and artificial whatever intelligence, but we built in late 2016, I built an app with a company called Automat, which was an investment as a part of our group. We built the first influencer bot, which was a chatbot called Kalani Bot. It was a Kalani Hilliker, which is part of Brandable. They have socks with them, with the company. And we built her beauty bot. And she would be able to talk to her entire audience on this bot outside of the platform experience. And to me, that was the first experience of saying, look, she's got, 2 or 3 million followers. She can't talk to every one of them individually, but her bot can. So that was something that, to me, that was the beginning of the revolution of AI influencers. Yeah. And now I'm excited. I'm advising a company in the space that's building the next generation AI influencers, these digital versions of people. I think the interfaces of what that's going to happen is going to be so exciting for the space.
Couldn't agree more. All right, back to the difficult question. Who's the mentor? Who did you learn from? Like, who pushed you? Like, that advertising major desire didn't come from no one. You mentioned your cousin.
I think look, the catalyst early on in my career was 100% my cousin, right? Because he was an incredible marketer for Ford at Y&R. Managing director, ran the business for such a long time. And he explained to me about how important this world was going to be. And then he ended up running his own marketing and CRM company, so he advised me a lot. So I would say my cousin Reza is probably a huge part of why I'm so passionate about the advertising world and everything about the advertising group. So my answer would definitely kind of be my cousin, without being too cliche and saying one of the Gary Vaynerchuks and all those guys of the world.
No, I like that. I think it's important to understand that everyone ends up somewhere through catalyst. Like, it's not just like you woke up when you were 3 and were like, I'm going to be a marketer, and that's it. You focused on it. It's like something triggered that, and you talked about it in the beginning, but having that person being a mentor is great as well. So absolutely, my man. Thank you for coming on Making the Marketer, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Eric. Thanks for your time. This was exciting. Hope I created some value. I think you did, man. It was really informative. Thank you.